Well, you should know that the job opportunities in the Coastal Bend are growing and growing. Reps from Workforce Solutions, the Craft Training Center, and Coastal Compass gathered at the Garcia Arts and Education Center today. They talked about the jobs in the oil and gas, construction, and hospitality industries. Sebastian Garzon is the director of the Garcia Center, and he says if you look at all of the out-of-state license plates in town, it is obvious that we are becoming a hub for jobs. For more information, just go to our website.